Hi, I'm Bridget McGuire. I am our PSR director here at Mary Queen of Peace. Today, I'm hoping to reach out and inspire some people to step up and volunteer to teach our PSR classes. We really are in need of some teachers to teach our younger grade levels here. I'm also going to be speaking with one of our PSR teachers, Mr. Elliot. And so hopefully the words that he has to share and wisdom he's gained through the years might also help kind of tug on our hearts and help us to step up to the plate and provide what's needed for the kids of our parish. Things that we're doing, some of the general things you might want to know about being a PSR teacher. For one, you teach once a week if you volunteer. We start after Labor Day, we end the second week of May. We don't teach during public school holidays, so you have that time to, relax and go home. And it's not a crazy commitment, but it definitely is a commitment from week to week, but something consistent that is a really beautiful way to give back to our kids and help lead them in their faith journey. Incredibly important just for anybody, especially in these formative years where we're trying to learn who God is, why are we Catholic, what does that mean in my life, and take it on as their own faith, not just mom and dad make me come here. So, our teachers make a huge difference in that, and when their heart's in it, which I know, we have so many parishioners who, love their faith and have that ability to inspire, and that's what we're trying to seek out those people who I know can make a huge difference for our kids. So, can I ask you a couple questions?
Absolutely.
All righty. So what made you want to start teaching PSR?
Starting teaching PSR. So I went through your typical education curriculum, 12 years of Catholic education, went on to college, and for the first time I was faced with a public institution of learning and began to be questioned by friends.
Yeah.
And I didn't have answers to this. One of my favorites was, "Are you saved?" Right?
Yep.
And so how do you answer that? I mean, it's an ongoing process, right? By God's grace, we're justified and gain our faith, but it's all about how you live your life. It's not a one and done type of situation, but I had no idea how to respond to that back when I was in college. And so through the years, I began to look more deeply at not only the stories, because we hear the stories like Mass on Sunday, on holy days, but it takes going beyond the story and why the story is significant on any given day to really understand more deeply our faith. I'm going to use the example that comes to mind this past Sunday at the Feast of the Assumption, which happened to be on a Sunday. And why do we choose those readings? Except that those deal with the Assumption of Mary in Revelation. When we heard about the woman who was standing on the sun with its crown of 12 stars, who else could that be but Mary? And it's not a description of a spirit, but of a body. And so if we have a bodily assumption into heaven, now it has greater meaning. Now we understand why we hear that particular story at Mass on that particular day. And it helps to put together that puzzle of our faith and of a liturgical year in a more clear fashion. But again, those were things that I didn't necessarily have in grade school coming through, in high school coming through. And I had wonderful teachers, don't get me wrong, they did great, but we never covered it in that depth.
Right.
And the more I got into it, the more I realized this is the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
And the more you get into it, the more you discover underneath the water level, and the more you can grow. And I don't feel like I'm ever going to reach that point of having a complete picture of the puzzle. But if I can put more of those pieces together to see more clearly the Beatific Vision, if you will, that we are all striving towards, then maybe we can live a life more in tune to what Christ wants us to live by learning more of our faith.
Yes.
And adapting that to our lives.
Yes. An ongoing, lifelong process. Yes.
So that is a motivation.
Yeah.
For me, that was a huge motivation to become involved, because if I didn't have that through 12 years of Catholic education, then how much less are our children today getting, and especially if they're not going to a Catholic institution of education, and how much are they being taught? And I will acknowledge Mom and dad are the primary teachers of the faith. I say that up front, day one, throughout the school year. But what else can we, as a community of faith, do to help instill those Catholic values, those Catholic teachings in our community, and pass the torch?
Yes.
Because eventually these will be our faith leaders in our community. So what can we do to pay it forward to those kids as they grow in their faith, as they grow in their lives, as they hit their tender teenage years? And our world is filled with temptation, the likes of which we've never seen in history, with electronic media, to put it bluntly.
Yes.
And what can we do to help instill that very simple phrase, what would Jesus do?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, here's all of our faith foundation, here's everything the church teaches, but you can ask yourself that simple question, what would Jesus do? And having that faith formation and having those questions that our students can then ask themselves, even if it's just that little voice in the back of their head, hopefully we've made a difference. And
yes.
hopefully at the end of time, we can see what difference that has made.
I know, that is so exciting. That is so exciting that one day, like, you can see the differences you made from the seeds that you're able to plant. That's beautiful to be able to be a part of in the classroom with all these kids, because you never know. Some kids are quiet, some kids are out there, they'll tell you anything, and then even your troublemakers,
Sure.
You never know what is really sitting in their heart from the words that you're able to give them and the guidance, because like you're saying, there's so many distractions out there, especially for our kids. Oh my gosh, just pressures and everything, and having that consistent voice of Jesus and trying to lead them and let them know, like, that's going to be satisfying. That's going to fill you up,
Sure.
Not all these other things. And that guidance is important not only from the parents, because sometimes kids don't want to listen to their parents. So it's nice to have those strong adult role models that are like, I'm living it too. It's not just your parents trying to force you to do it. This is just a vital part of our lives as Catholics, is living our faith, continuing our education forever. I mean, there's always more to learn. So thank you for sharing that story. That's beautiful. I guess my next question for you is, what has kept you?
What has kept me around?
Probably similar, but I mean, like, what's kept you in the classroom after that first experience of teaching?
I think seeing the children grow. So one of the tests that I give to the children, which I've incorporated into just an annual sort of basis, is at the end of the year, I put together a Jeopardy game of sorts.
That's fun.
And I let the children show me how much they have learned, and seeing that they have this greater knowledge, this greater base from which to pull to draw upon their faith is very rewarding. And I try to take it beyond just the textbook, because our textbooks are great, but with each topic taught in the textbook, there's so much more.
Yes.
And so I will use other resources from Catholic theologians, apologists, the ones that come to mind: Edward Shree, Tim Staples, Jimmy Aiken, Scott Hahn, locally Brant Petrie, one of my religion teachers from high school, Chris Baglow, who is no longer at the seminary in New Orleans. He's graduated on to Notre Dame.
Wow.
In South Bend, Indiana, and he's a professor of theology in South Bend, Indiana. So a number of different notable and well-known resources that I try to pull from, incorporate into the classroom, and extend their knowledge
right.
to our students.
Yes.
In hopes that, again, at the end of the year, if I tell them Matthew chapter 6, verse 9, epiousios, what are we talking about? They can tell me.
That's awesome.
That is the Eucharist. That is the Our Father, and the original Greek word for epiousios is that transubstantial or super substantial bread. And let them know that, hey, when you encounter others in the world and they ask you questions, hey, do you guys do? Yeah, we pray the Our Father, of course we do. We want the Eucharist each and every day. And so we ask for our epiousios, or daily bread. And so, those are the sorts of things that's what I want to put into these children's minds. They may not remember the original Greek word, they may not remember the chapter and verse, but they know it's there, and they know they can find it. Again, using that media, which can serve as temptation, but can also serve as something good for quick reference for our students.
That's awesome. Wow. I'm very impressed. It's been a really really fun experience just like getting to meet my teachers over time since I just started this summer. And it's beautiful to see how y'all's faith is so vibrant and alive, and you want to share it. I love that, and I just hope we continue to grow that and foster that in our PSR program, because golly, I know it's making a big difference. Parents notice, the kids notice, they know. It's beautiful. Okay, so let's see. You've been teaching PSR here for 5 years, 3 before. You've stuck around, which is great. What would you say to somebody who is thinking about teaching PSR? They're kind of like, oh, I don't know if I know enough. I don't know if I have the time. You know, the typical things that kind of hold you back from, I don't know if I'm that person.
So there's an analogy that I've used in the past, and that is, you know, when something happens in a large group, everybody kind of stands around and looks at one another, and nobody really acts. But if something happens in a smaller group, 1, 2 people, suddenly you are then compelled to act, to take action in whatever it might be. If there was an accident, if someone is in need of help. So you can take that analogy then and apply it to PSR. Okay, so Ephesians chapter 1 verse 4 tells us that God chose you before the foundation of the world. Okay? If you have even the smallest inkling, if you have even the smallest thought that this might be something that you would have an interest in, take the example of Samuel from 1 Samuel chapter 3 and say, here I am, Lord. I've come to do your will. And take the dive, take the plunge, give it a shot. No matter what amount of knowledge you think that you have or don't have, you're going to have more than our students, and we'll be able to pass that faith to our students in a meaningful way. Give it a shot, take the chance, and see if God and the Holy Spirit lead you towards the classroom.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes. And also just knowing, I mean, I think you're saying this in your own words, but none of us are perfect. None of us are ever going to reach, like, now I'm the perfect Catholic.
Never. Never.
So that can't hold you back. It can't. I mean, you have to start somewhere, especially if you feel that tug on your heart, that call to serve Christ and his flock. You just have to say yes and surrender that.
One of the wonderful things about the Catholic faith is that the church refuses to move the bar. We see sometimes in a secular world and in modern Christianity, maybe I'll say that, the bar gets moved because popular culture says this is not bad.
Right.
But Catholicism has held that bar and says, no, we have truth, we have things which are morally wrong and that you will be held accountable to. And in the same way, we can take and apply that to our teaching, right? I will never, ever in my life, no matter how much I read, teach, learn, watch videos, I will never know the fullness of truth until I experience, hopefully, that Beatific Vision. And only then will the veil will be lifted. Only then will I see the entire picture. But I can always continue to strive towards that, knowing I'll never reach that bar, but I'm not going to adjust that bar simply because
to fit your needs.
Exactly. So yeah, you know, no one is perfect. No one is going to know everything or have all the answers. But know that as long as you're striving towards that, all the days of your life, you eventually, hopefully, when you see the Beatific Vision, we'll experience that. And until then, we can continue to strive and continue to teach and continue to share what we do know with those who will be our future, in hopes that they too will take that reign, run with it, and teach their children when the time comes.
Yes, beautiful, thank you. This makes me think about, I just spent the past 3 years teaching 5th graders, and I think that applies also just to any subject that you're teaching in general, not just our Catholic faith, that sometimes kids ask you questions that maybe you don't know the answer to, and that's okay, because we don't know everything.
Sure.
And it's okay to turn around and tell that child, you know, especially if you're a PSR teacher and they ask you something very heavy, like, oh wow, like, that came out of nowhere. It's okay to say, you know, I'm not sure about that. That's something that we could research together. You could do it right then in the classroom, depending on the ages and technology. Most of them have these smartphones and going to Catholic Answers and discovering together. But also, I would challenge my fifth graders. I would say, you know, I don't know that science question. Go home and research it and come tell us. Like, you come teach the class. So don't let like your own limited knowledge hold you back as well. Because we're all learning together every day. We can learn with our kids too. That's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm learning every day. There's plenty I don't know.
And when in doubt, you know, I'll tell the children, we have a map.
Yes.
You know, and the map is the Bible. But, you know, unlike other Christian faiths, we have a deposit of faith. Not only sacred scripture, but sacred tradition and the magisterial teachings of the church. And so, in addition to the map, you know, sometimes maps are difficult to read.
Yes.
I believe it's in 2 Peter that Peter says, you know, these scriptures are difficult to understand. Be careful who you use to show you what they mean. And so I told them we have not only a map, but a legend. So for every map, when you don't understand a symbol, there's a legend to tell you what that is. And our legend comes from that magisterial teaching and sacred tradition found in our catechism of the Catholic Church. So when those questions arise, and they're tough questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Can't surprise you.
I can always say, we're going to consult the legend. And we're going to see how the legend tells us to.
And that's good for them to experience. So, I mean, us as adults like to know, like, we're human. We don't know it all. You don't have to know it all. But you can still be faithful to Jesus and following, you know, learning him more and more every day. So, thank you. If there's anything you want to share, any kind of knowledge that you want to share with the parish to try to encourage some of our parents maybe, or I even was thinking when I was in high school, in my senior year, I taught a PSR class. I was thinking about going into education, and I think that there's not one mold for a PSR teacher. It can be different, right? You don't have to be a parent of a child in class, but you can be. You don't have to be in your 30s. You could be a senior in high school. You could be somebody who's retired. It looks different for everybody. You know, it's just whether or not you have that pull in your heart and God's calling you to that position. And I do believe that we have more people in our parish who really, God is trying to pull you in this direction, whether or not you know it. We have a huge program. We have over 300 kids registered right now. And it takes about 33 teachers to cover all of our class times that, you know, we have available. So we're still in need of around 11 teachers. And I mean, that's a good number, but it's doable. I know that we have people here, and I just hope the words that you've spoken, the things we've reflected on, might touch your heart in a way that you're like, wow, like it really is important to educate our kids, and maybe that's a role I'm being called into. So,
you know, there's nothing bad that can come from giving this a shot.
yes.
If you're on the fence, if you feel like, you know, maybe it's something you'd like to give it a try, but, you know, why me, or I'm nervous, or I don't know enough, or jump in, because there are resources available. There's other teachers you can bounce things off of. I know in years gone by, as we're waiting in the car line, some of us would talk amongst each other of different things that were going on. So there's resources out there. You're not going to be set out there by yourself and left to sink or swim.
Yes, no. We're not going to do this to you.
Plenty of resources, and you know, when questions come up, you know, emails, phone calls. I know you've been available every time that I've sent an email, and so yeah, there are resources out there. Jump in, give it a shot.
Yes, we're all a team. We work together. We enjoy it. And then, I mean, not only are you changing the lives of these kids, but your life is going to be affected too. It can't not be, you know. It is beautiful, the give and take. The kids get out of what they put in the same way that you're going to get out of this, you know, growth and virtue that might be unexpected. So that's something to look forward to as well. Yeah.
Very good.
Well, thank you guys for listening, staying with us. I hope that some of these things might sink in with you. My contact information is on our website. There's lots of information posted on our PSR page about starting dates, what to expect, our different policies, whatever you might need is there. Don't hesitate to reach out to me with questions or concerns, any kind of interest. I'm here to listen, I'm here to direct you and help you, and we won't leave you hanging if you come and join our team.